Welcome to The Ripple Within, a podcast by All-in-One Life Coaching. I'm Michelle, a certified life coach specializing in mindset, emotional wellness, and the law of attraction. I work with people to help create the narrative around their desired outcome.
And I'm Kathy. I'm here to ask the questions, explore the patterns, and share the real-life moments that make this all, make sense.
This podcast is about the connection between how we feel and the physical reality we experience every day. We'll explore how our thoughts lead to outcomes and how narrative shifts can create big change.
We'll keep it grounded using logic and lived experience, not just theory. And if you've ever wondered why you feel stuck, reactive, or out of sync with yourself, you're not alone.
Our life experience will always match how we feel. This podcast is about exploring our ripple within, how our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and values contribute to the physical life we live. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone. All right, Kathy, what do we got today?
I have a friend, and she has adult children. She still feels this massive obligation to them,
Okay.
which, obligation, it's almost a reversal, right? So if they need something from her, maybe it's watching the kids, maybe it's watching pets, maybe it's, watching and she says yes. Like she doesn't say no to her kids, and I get that. I got kids too, right? So it's,
Yeah.
saying no to them, even as adults, is super tough, super tough. So I get it. But in some cases, when she's saying yes, it's almost, I know I'm using the wrong words, but it's almost at a detriment to her happiness. And I get it. We want to put our kids first. We always want to put our kids first, even as adults. But do we do that and provide too many concessions to our children that impacts our happiness? Can we concede too much to even our own children, our own family, that impacts our...
Let's talk about that, because you said a couple of things, and I have a kid too, so I totally get it, who's an adult and has her own children and her own life. Now, when she asks me for something or needs me for something, am I going to be there? Of course I am, 100% of the time. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. However, adults are adults are adults. You said something at the beginning, which was, if we do concessions at our own detriment or at her own detriment, your friend's detriment, we can already tell that based on this theory and based on the 3 questions, is it the best possible outcome? Is it in the best interest of all that is, including myself? If people are agreeing to do things at their own detriment, we would say that no, that is not living in well-being, and that is not taking part from a best possible outcome mindset, because we can't do things at a detriment to ourselves and then meet the 3rd criteria question, which is, what behaviors must we have to be able to meet a best possible outcome? What ends up happening is, if we're doing things at our own detriment, regardless of who the receiving end is, then our behavior changes. The words we use change. Our patience goes out the window. Work might receive the byproduct of that. Other friends, other children, if your friend has other children, may be on the receiving end of that. In my case, grandchildren could be on the receiving end of that. So I think the bigger question and important way to be able to look at it is, one, really understanding what we're agreeing to, what that means in the bigger picture. Can I agree to something that is going to make me miserable and still love life? We already know the answer to that question. We know that that is not a possibility to be in a situation where we emotionally are in turmoil and be having a good time. There's a couple of things wrapped in that. And again, we're only going to speak from a law of attraction perspective because we don't know what else might be happening within that your friend, and we don't know what else they may have lived through and what their life experience was like and what past has been like. We just don't know that information. So from a law of attraction perspective, when we are living in turmoil, the words we use are coming from turmoil. They're coming from the rabbit hole. And what'll happen is first we're going to place blame, because that's kind of the go-to that we have is, I agreed to this because you're my kid. If you weren't my kid, I never would have done this. So then now we're blaming, rabbit hole, not going to feel good. Then we quickly realize that we're blaming. So then we're going to feel guilty. Now we've caught ourselves, maybe, you know what, this shouldn't be my job and I shouldn't have to do this and you're an adult, even if we're saying just that in our head and not even to them. Then we're going to feel guilty about that. So I think one of the bigger things becomes, what is it that makes people feel the need to simply say yes?
There's such a perception that, and I mean, even for me, I would do anything for my children. And we keep doing that, even if there are moments when it impacts our happiness. Now, there's lots of people that'll say, hey, as a parent, that's your job. You sacrifice whatever you need to sacrifice for your children. I totally get that. At what point, though, do you, with the understanding that they are adults, they have their own lives, at what point are you able to say, no, I'm you do you. I'm out. I mean, not out, but
so I mean, I have a different perspective
right?
of that, right? Yeah. Because I actually don't believe in sacrificing for children, not my own, not anybody else's. Now, that means, though, I also believe not hurting them, not deliberately abusing them, not taking from them. And that goes back to being able to guide our children, because I mean, the laws, at least in our country, state that at 18, you're an adult. You move out, you go to school, you get a job, you do whatever. You start adulting at 18. My kid is about to be 36. So does that mean if she asked me for something, I would say no to her now? No, of course not. It means, though, that we might have a deeper conversation about what that need is. There's things that we 100% are going to be prepared to do, able to do, willing to do, be happy to do. But if we get ourselves in a situation where somebody, and again, for me, doesn't matter who's doing the asking, if somebody's asking us for something that we don't have the capacity to do, then we're creating a bigger nightmare than we need to. Because one, we're not fully in it. We're not. So whatever that task might be that we're agreeing to, we're probably really only in it about 50% anyway. So then it becomes, hey, look, there's this thing that you asked me to do. I gave it some thought, and here is where my thought process is going. I have a busy life, a busy schedule. I have a job, personal life, traveling, working on other things that I'm trying to bring to completion. And if I agree to this now, I'm agreeing to it out of obligation, a feeling of obligation, versus truly simply just wanting to help. And that's something we have to sort out for ourselves. Now, again, it doesn't mean that now that's our way of being able, I don't want to do this. But what we're saying is, instead of making decisions out of obligation, being able to make decisions from a well-being perspective. So when we have a belief system that we are obligated to our children, it becomes tricky because now, yes, I mean, certainly in those formative years and until they're 18 and so on, yeah, I mean, we do have an obligation for their safety, their health, their well-being, their education, their food intake, the people they hang out with. Like, for sure we do. That's how we end up with really good, constructive adults, is by doing that. And preferably through those formative years, we've been able to guide them enough to be able to, so that when they are of age to be on their own, for kids who might be going to college, it might be 25, whatever that age is. When we get there and our children are in a position to be able to make decisions on their behalf, then we relieve ourselves of a whole bunch of pressure.
It reminds me of another friend whose parents are mature, children are adults, moved out, have their own families, and continue to maybe get themselves in situations where they then need to turn to mom and dad to borrow money. I mean, it's probably common than we think, adult children going back to our parents. And then does that also become an obligation? You don't want to see your child, even though they're an adult, kicked out of wherever they live. You don't want to see your grandchildren without food on the table. Do you know what I mean? Like, then it
100%.
becomes a whole, how would you navigate something? You don't want to say no, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to make you happy to say no, for sure, right?
Nope.
So there's, situations where parents do whatever they can to get that child the money, even to their detriment.
Yeah, that goes back to that feeling and sensation of obligation and feeling like you have to, because what if? And it is a tricky and a slippery slope, because from this perspective, if you do that, you are going to be perpetually attracting that same behavior. So we have to kind of figure that out too, which is the least path of resistance that is in the best interest of all that is. And there might be situations where adult children don't have the capacity for mental illness reasons or whatever the case may be. I kind of draw the line at, if you're capable and have the ability, I might do it one time, but then I'm not doing it. So, and there's a reason for that. Not because I don't love them, not because I don't want them to be successful. What happens if I'm no longer here? Then what are you going to do? Like, have no skills, no idea, no anything? It's not an easy decision to make, and not easy to be able to say to yourself and to people who feel obligated to do things that it is not your job. It is not yours, like your job, to give up your happiness for someone else. Just isn't. And when we do agree to do things, it has to be unconditional. So even for the kids who borrow money all the time, if we're going to do it, then it has to be unconditional, meaning we're never going to hold it over your head. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're not going to talk about how you spend your money. We're not going to do that. Because otherwise, we're giving you money and then we're back here, maybe to ourselves, to our partners, to close friends, going, I can't believe John came over again and I had to give him money. I don't know when he's going to get his shit together. I don't know what to do here. How do I say no? So then before we know it, we are resenting our children. That's here.
Yeah.
When we keep doing it, keep agreeing, then we run the risk of that becoming the norm. So now they have no desire to go do anything different. Why would they?
Yep.
I have my scapegoat over here. And I'm not saying that those folks are doing that intentionally either.
Yeah.
So if I have a parent who's willing to drop me $100 every couple weeks and I don't actually have to go work at McDonald's, then I'm going to go do that.
Especially if you have siblings or more than one child in that household, and maybe one child, has their poop together and has never asked for, money, and the other one has, and then the one that never has, all of a sudden, maybe a car breaks down or whatever, and they need to go to the parents for
Mm-hmm. And then they can't
and then
because
they can't because there's nothing
right.
left, or yeah.
It's a big conversation, and every individual has their viewpoint on what that looks like. So in layman's terms, if we're going to agree to do something, we need to feel pretty satisfied about our decision to do it. So we can't agree to watch children, animals, lend money or give money. We can't agree to do that and then behind the scenes be resenting the very thing we agreed to do. Because law of attraction is going to be like, okay, you're doing this right now. You don't like it. So let me see what else I can remind you of those things you don't like. Hey, remember what Jane did last week at work? Yeah, lazy. Hey, remember that other thing that happened that my spouse did that really pissed me off? Because when we're in it and we go back to memory, we are remembering the stuff that matches where we are. I'm in the rabbit hole, and then we get deeper and deeper and deeper. I'm not saying lending money or doing that is right or wrong. I'm saying we can't expect a different emotional state if we really don't want to do something. Back to the conversation this morning with a lovely lady. She's like, I want to be okay with the discomfort. And I said, it's interesting because Kathy and I talk about that quite a bit on our podcast. We don't want you to be okay with the discomfort. That's weird. And I said to her, I go, that would be like me taking a hammer to you going, do you like this? Does this feel good? How's that feel? And then you being, and you sitting there going, this is great, as there's blood coming out of your finger. That is not logical to ask ourselves to be okay with discomfort. And so then we were like, what can we say differently? Instead of being okay with discomfort, what is the discomfort telling you?
The opposite of that. Yep.
Exactly. We want to be in a different emotional state of being. And we can't be in discomfort, looking at the discomfort, talking about the discomfort, and be going, woo, this is fabulous. Again, ooh, chills, weird. It's weird that we ask people to do that. And it's the same thing when we agree to do something that is uncomfortable to us. It would be weird to agree to something that is going to be at your detriment and be like, this is what I'm talking about here. This is the jam over here. I'm just having my best life. Also very weird.
Yeah, sorry. Or so to be taken advantage of. And maybe you have a sense that you are, but you are. You just maybe don't know it. And Apparently, you're
So
okay with it. Maybe.
yeah, so
Yeah,
as you were
that's
saying,
weird.
that's a tricky one
Yeah,
for me too,
yeah.
right? We'll use this as an example. If somebody asks you to do something and you say yes, are they taking advantage of you or are you taking advantage of yourself?
It's good. That's yeah.
The reason why we ask it that way is because if you have a thought that they are taking advantage of you without knowing the true intention, human beings cannot think that and feel good,
It's true.
which would be precisely another reason why we don't want to do things that may ultimately cause us to have a thought of, I'm really feeling like I'm being taken for granted over here. And I'm really starting to think that you're just taking advantage of the situation. And I'm really starting to feel like I'm the one losing out and you're getting all the wins. And humans, most humans, generalizing, we don't have the ability to have a conversation in here out loud or otherwise negatively about another person's intention and feel good.
And you can hear it sometimes from your friends. It's like you know they're taking you for granted, right? Like no, 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 no. You know they're. I know you don't see it, but yeah, are but that becomes even trickier because perception and you don't know intent and you just see
Exactly.
potential. Well, I think you're being taken granted here. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, and then we have to look at what is the worst case scenario if I say that I'm going to choose something different. So in the event of your friend whose one child is always borrowing money or asking for money, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if you say no? Right? Like, talk to me.
Yeah, I just sorry, heads. I think for them it becomes tricky because son lives about an hour and a half away. They have
Hmm.
children, and I think sometimes the children are weaponized
Oh,
for visits and all those sorts of things. Um, I I think that's in conversation with the parents on occasion that the children are, which is brutal when it's grandchildren and
that's awful.
grandparents and it's yeah
Stop doing
it's
that, people.
terrible, right? Yeah,
Right? If you're
yeah, like
listening,
yeah, yeah,
stop
yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, I'll come see you and oh by the way, can I borrow like $500? Well,
Yeah.
no, I don't really have the money. Well, maybe the day or next day or what. Sorry, we can't make it this weekend. We'll have to, reschedule. You know what I mean? Like little games that
They're clearly living in the rabbit hole too, which will also prevent them from being able to sort out their own finances. So when we talk again about that bigger, broader picture, what do we owe our children? We owe them their ability to thrive in our environment. And it can't be at your expense or anyone else's expense to do that. Now, again, it doesn't mean we don't give them money, and it doesn't mean that we don't feel that the potential of having children used against us as a tool, but that's another decision we get to make. And sometimes we're just going to say, you know what? So be it. I love them so much. Have them call me. I love you so much. I know you can do it. I love you so much. I'm going to support you and help you get that job. I love you so much, whatever the case may be. Or we continue to do it and then be above the line when we do it.
because it would need to be unconditional.
It just has to be. And for those very reasons that we spoke about a few minutes ago, if we do something and then resent, if we do something and then blame, if we do something and then feel guilt, if we do something and now we're not sleeping, we're not eating, we're not taking care of ourselves, we are no longer helpful to our children anyway.
Yeah. Just exhausted. We're
You
just,
become
yeah,
exhausted, and then
yeah.
before you know it, you could end up arguing. It can affect people's jobs and their own well-being. And in this life experience, from a perspective of you need to take care of yourself too, right?
Sure.
And again, we're going to be general because there are some folks who truly, truly need that extra help. The sooner we get to a place where we can be supportive with their own accountability, that's when we change the dynamic of society. We're not turning our back on you. We're going to help you be successful. And what does that look like? So talk to me about how and what you're feeling in this moment and what maybe has come to light for you.
I think just I need to take more time with my responses and not be quite so reactive when I'm asked something or to do something. I need to, and I find that even with conversations that I'm trying to remind myself to take a breath before I just, blurt out, yeah, sure, no problem. Because that's the helpful, it's
And
and
habitual.
and and habitual, and I'm trying to find the balance of being able to. I wish sometimes I could wear like a neon sign on my head that said, I love to help. This is my purpose in life. I love to help. I love to
Yes,
find
you do.
solutions. I love to do all of those things. But I'm guilty of being asked to do something or being asked for something, and I just say yes without truly sitting down and sometimes working through all of what it means to me and to my well-being, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
So let's come up with a statement that you're going to be able to use immediately, that'll
yes.
become just part of your process, where what is something you can respond from a well-being perspective? Somebody asks you to do something. What can be an immediate response that comes from well-being without saying yes or no?
That's a yes or no. Yes. Oh, I guess maybe it would need to be two parts. Is there a timeline on this request, or can I consider it and get back to you? Is that or is that too?
It becomes tricky
Yeah.
because we're relying on them to provide us additional information. And
Yeah.
it isn't about what they need, it has to be about what you have the capacity to do. So I'm not opposed to saying, like, when do you need to know by? That's great too. Start with, I'm going to take a minute to think about that. Start with you first, then
Gotcha.
say,
Yeah.
because otherwise we're flipping it again and we're putting it on them now to,
Gotcha.
and it can become tricky to do that too. So if somebody were to say, hey, Kathy, can you do this for me right now? What, again, for clarity purpose, what can your immediate response be?
Can I think about it and get back to you?
Why are you asking them for permission to think about it?
Oh. Oh, I see where that's going. Okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'll consider it and get back to you in 10 minutes.
That would be perfect, right?
Okay.
Anything to allow yourself, and I want to talk about that really quick before we close out. What is the benefit for you when you allow yourself time to process?
I tend to think about all the scenarios, how it will affect more than just that particular piece. So giving myself the time to take a breath, because otherwise I have found if I just go yes, then all of a sudden afterwards I'm thinking, oh crap, what about this, and this? How am I going to work this, and this around that, and that now? So now I've, yeah, automatically put myself in the crapper, because now it becomes this snowball of all these thoughts in my head instead of having the calm organization that I need to process everything that I need to do, right? So
Yeah.
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 And then what happens to us as people when we've given ourselves time to look at the bigger picture, to have a really good idea of the total impact of that, and then agree to it, because now we know we can plan around this and we can achieve that over here and we can schedule this over here. What happens to us when we have that ability?
Oh, deep breath, and you feel much relief. Like just, yeah,
Oh,
calm,
chills,
peace.
right?
Yeah, calm, peace instead of organized chaos. Yes. Yeah,
Right. And the thing is, 99% of the time, you're still going to say yes.
true. Yeah, that's
You
probably
just
true.
will,
Yeah.
because now you've been able to shift something over there and process this differently over here and think about the bigger picture and then convince yourself that, okay, I can manage this and I can do this and I can do that and no big deal. And it's for a limited amount of time. And then before you know it, you're like, you know what? I was able to give it some thought. I'm in. I can do it.
Yeah.
Or we find out the alternative. I have this over here, I have that over there. It becomes about prioritizing. Is this going to affect me negatively? Is it going to affect you negatively? Is it going to affect my job negatively? Being able to sort through all of that information to be able to say, you know what? I gave it some thought. I have got, and again, we're not big on giving reasons, right? Or excuses to people. I get it with children, we might, because of that dynamic and that relationship, to be able to provide additional clarity and insight. But ultimately, I'm a bigger fan of, you know what, I gave it some thought and I've decided that I can't fit it in the schedule. So I appreciate you thinking about me. And if anything changes, I will absolutely let you know and be there.
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing to be able to put oneself first, again, not at the detriment to another, because we can't do that either. But oftentimes, putting ourselves first, we still end up doing and participating in that event.
Yeah.
We don't feel resentment now, and we don't feel guilt now, and we're not blaming now. I looked at the whole picture, and with all of the information, I'm still agreeing to do so.
But then you're more free, I think, to do it unconditionally because you've sorted it out yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, where that snap response is almost like, well, I was forced to give you an answer.
Yeah, that says more about maybe the person giving the response though than the person asking, right?
Rabbit hole. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Everything, our
Yeah.
response to
Yeah.
anything is based on what we're doing. I mean, they're participating,
Yeah.
but our response is based on what we do, not what they do.
Yeah. That's fair.
We just really good at using that as an excuse.
While we wrap things up, any final thoughts on our hot topic of obligation to our chitlins? Yeah.
You know, it was such a good question because it's one that I encounter a lot doing what I do. And it's one where I will always go back to the when we are at our best means the byproduct of that, they get to receive it. So we still have to do what's best for us from a well-being perspective, What is the best possible outcome? Is it in the best interest of all that is, including me? And what behaviors are going to go with achieving this goal? And then life just becomes a little bit easier to live.
And make it unconditional. Have it
and make it unconditional.
Unconditional. If any of our listeners have any questions or topics you'd like to discuss, or hey, maybe you want to join us on the podcast and hang out and have a conversation, you're welcome to leave those comments as well. Please like and subscribe. Until next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kathy.